Hey everybody, it's Tony George along with Arun Shiva, better known as Indian Cowboy, DocSports.com, coming to you on a rare Friday edition of Tony's Time. And by the way, everybody, we've been tabulating and taking a look at all the names that you've been sending in for the show. Leave comments. We're still trying to name the show. We got a couple leaders in the clubhouse, and once we get 4 or 5 of them, I'll give Arun a call and we'll discuss on the back end and figure out who's going to win the free doc swag. So nonetheless, we'll keep you informed on that. Of course, the week kicked off last night in San Francisco, and Green Bay, Arun, just absolutely turned the 49ers inside out and upside down. And it's that time of year where I always call it the Jekyll and Hyde syndrome. One team, will look like absolute dog piss one week, and the next week they look like they could have won the Super Bowl against the 85 Bears. And that was Green Bay last night. Of course, you had San Francisco with all kinds of COVID problems. They're racked with injuries. They have been all year. It kind of caught up to them last night, although I hate to admit, I did give out San Francisco on a free video play yesterday, and I feel like a horse's ass this morning. But I thought they might be able to slow Green Bay down, and I thought they might be able to zone block, in the run game and take the pressure off the quarterback, much what Minnesota did against them, and what San Francisco did against them twice last year and beating them 2 times, Arun, and didn't work out. And Rodgers and company came out and pulled out a can of whoop ass.
Yeah, I think one of the best things that you can do is how I think the big picture is really important. You know how we talk about here who are good teams and who are not good teams. And if you have that mindset, it makes the next week a little clearer, like the Packers got thumped by the Vikings, but that's only because they're probably looking forward to the Niners who beat them in the playoffs. You know what I mean? They probably didn't care about the 1-5 Vikings or whatever, and the Vikings were coming off a loss. And, this was an important game because Aaron Rodgers kind of needed to show that he has improved, after they lost last year to the Niners. But the Niners didn't have anybody, man. They didn't have Bourne. They didn't have Deebo Samuel. They didn't have Ayuk. I mean, they didn't have anybody. You got a bunch of receivers running around who have barely played football. And then you have your backup quarterback, and Garoppolo's out for the year as well. The only way the Niners are going to be even remotely close to ball games going forward, and I think, Tony, you'd agree with me, the Niners just don't have the quarterback play here. So the only way they're going to be – so maybe some unders to look forward to for the Niners, just kind of simplifying things and kind of running more and playing their high-quality defense. They still held the Packers to only 30 points, which isn't bad. But they're not going to want the other opponent's offense on the field because they can't catch up. So they're going to have sustained long drives and stuff like that. It's crazy, right? Halfway through the season, our opinion of the Niners is drastically different because they don't have a quarterback anymore, and the Packers had revenge, and they went in and they took care of business.
That's a good angle, folks. Be looking at over and unders, and especially unders there with San Francisco moving forward. And by the way, the under players got crushed last night in the final 4 seconds. And welcome to the bad beat section.
Speaking of, I had the over as my free play for that. So I got lucky in the last 4 seconds. So
be sure and tune into those videos this week, folks. This weekend, I'll do some rapid fires. We got numerous 5, 6, or 7 guys doing videos over there at DocSports.com. And, of course, the free $60 above you there. And I'm going to give you a 25% off promo code during the show for this weekend's action in any sport. And I'll tell you about that in a minute. But let's get to wire base here. Let's talk about the ball games. And here we go, Seattle on the road at Buffalo. And I've been singing the praises of Buffalo. I still am because I'm holding a $500 ticket at plus 140 to win the East. And they took a big step last week in beating New England, Arun. However, they were out-yarded in that game. And New England gifted him the ball game. Well, let me rephrase that. Cam Newton gifted him the ball game with about 12 seconds left or 30 seconds left on the 12-yard line when he coughed up the ball and for sure was going to get into overtime, maybe even go in for the win. But it's interesting when you talk about Buffalo. They're at home catching 3 against Seattle, total 55. Out-yarded last week by New England. Week before, they played the Jets and didn't score a touchdown against the Jets. Your favorite college football team, Alabama, could score a touchdown against the Jets. I'm not saying a college team could beat an NFL team, but they could score a touchdown against them. The 2 weeks before that, they lost to Tennessee and Kansas City. Now, Buffalo started out like a house of fire. Josh Allen was the talk of the MVP. But now the talk of the MVP, interestingly, ironically enough, is Russell Wilson. On the road, laying 3. Not a great spot for Seattle. Their third trip to the East Coast in between division games. So that is one thing you have to consider. But Arun, I don't know about you. The Seattle Seahawks, no matter what it looks like, for the most part, just know how to win ball games at the end of a ball game. They put themselves in a position to win. Now, obviously, a couple weeks ago, they lost to Arizona, but there they were in overtime and should have won it. If not for a holding call, the game would have been over. But at the end of the day here, I think Seattle, with one loss, is probably one of the top 2 teams in the NFC right now. And they're on the road here with the middle of the pack, at least the way they've been playing. And I don't know if Jekyll and Hyde's going to come into play here, because for the last 4 weeks in a row, Buffalo just really has not played that well. And Seattle coming in here, obviously, with what do they got, the 29th ranked defense in the NFL, they'll just outscore you. I don't know about you. I'm thinking 55 on the total here. If the weather looks like it's going to be in the 40s, not going to be a blustery, windy, snowy day in Buffalo there and no fans there, I think it might be a score fest here. But I don't know what to buy into with Buffalo, Arun.
No, I think that's right. I think if you're looking at the total, I think the over is certainly a good lean for sure. As far as Seattle's concerned, yeah, I mean, it kind of ties into what you said. I mean, this is a team that scored basically 30 points or more in every game over the last, 6 games or 7 games now. Yeah, every game this season except for that Minnesota game, which was 27-26. So they've dropped 30 on everybody. That defense is super young. They're still trying to figure themselves out. And, because they lost that road game to Arizona, I think that's going to motivate them to play well this road game. Remember when Tampa Bay lost to Chicago on the road, their next road game at Vegas, they thumped Vegas. So guys know when they lose the road game, when they head off to the road again. So I suspect that Seattle will be more focused than their last game. And at the end of the day, Buffalo, yes, they beat New England, and yes, they beat the Jets by 8 that you pointed out, but not impressive at all. And they only lost to Kansas City by 9 to their credit. But that Tennessee loss looks pretty bad, losing by 26. Yeah. I mean, that could have just been Tennessee being highly motivated because everybody was kind of making fun of them for the COVID thing. And this team did beat the Rams. One thing for sure, Tony, is that Buffalo is not a bad team anymore, right? Buffalo is one of those good teams now. But the question is, are they a Seattle? Are they a Chiefs or a Ravens or a Steelers? Can they get over that hump? And Tennessee was their first test, and they couldn't do it. And the Steelers and the Ravens and the Chiefs, these are the teams that get over that little hump. You know what I'm talking about. The teams that are bad, teams that are good, but the teams that are are going to be that upper echelon. I'd have to lean Seattle because I just think they're a tougher team, and I think they lost on the road last time. I know the public's on Seattle, but the public wins sometimes, and I like the Seahawks here.
The difference between a good NFL football team and a great NFL football team is the ability in a tight ball game to close them out and win it. Seattle can do that. Kansas City can do it. Pittsburgh can do it. And speaking about a team that hasn't been able to do it, let's just move on to the next game. One of the 2 marquee matchups of this weekend, along with Tampa Bay and New Orleans, and that would be Baltimore and Indianapolis. And I still have got the mentality with the Indianapolis Colts that they're an enigma wrapped in a riddle for me. If they would have had Marlon Mack, who, by the way, is one of the top 3 running backs in the NFL when he's healthy, I would think that this team would be really one of the elite teams we'd be talking about. But here they are with a win-loss record that's impressive and taking on Baltimore. And I wrote these down. I highlighted this from something I read online. I wanted to read it to everybody and to you. Baltimore, this was at 2.5 and 47 when we were going to do the show on Wednesday. And we had a scheduling conflict, so we're coming to you on Friday. Now it's 1.5 and 48. So Baltimore dropped down on the road here a full point since Wednesday, and the total went up a full point. But last week, anybody that's a fan of the NFL or is an action junkie for high-profile games, you got your money's worth with Baltimore and Pittsburgh. Baltimore had a 457 to 221 yard edge in that game and lost. Since 1933, a team that had a 250-yard rushing advantage and had at least twice as many yards as the opponent had a combined record of 215-1. Now that is 215-2, courtesy of the Baltimore Ravens. And interesting game here. I think Baltimore is the better team. But every time I think somebody's better than or is going to cover a spread against the Colts, they continue to improve incrementally weekly, Arun, which is one thing I've noticed about Indianapolis. They continue to improve in areas, in small little detail areas that continue to make them a damn good football team, and they're very well coached. You can say what you want to say about Phillip Rivers. He's the best thrower in this game, I can tell you that. Jackson's dangerous on the ground and can be dangerous at times through the air, but there's been a little inconsistency in Baltimore this year, Arun, especially in big games. Chiefs thumped them at home on a Monday night. I mean, behind the woodshed ass kicking, and they came up against an elite team in Pittsburgh. I guess two questions for you. Do you consider the Indianapolis Colts an elite team in the AFC based on their record? And can Baltimore go in there and close the deal against a good team on the road like this, laying a number?
Yeah, all great questions. I would say this, a couple things. One, that you'd have to ask yourself, and you started off really well, as to why the line is the way it is. Why is this team only favored by 1.5 points? The Ravens are coming off of a loss on top of that to a Colts team. Yeah, the Colts won 41-21 against the Lions, but why are they favored? So why are they even only favored by 1.5? And I understand similar records, etc. But if any odds makers that are just glancing over this game, given the history of the Ravens and the history of the Colts lost to the Jaguars early this year. You know what I mean? It's not like they have an incredibly potent offense. You would think this line would come out like 3.5 for Baltimore or 4.5, something to that effect, not this. So that's interesting, number one. Number two, that's a great point about the total yards, about the Ravens having so many more yards than the Steelers. I just want to point out that's Lamar Jackson. We've talked about it on this show. They're able to drive the ball down, and 2 points come up on that. Number one, Lamar Jackson, when he faces an elite defense, when you're facing the end zone with only 20 yards to go, you have to be sharper and tighter. And he is not able to do that. They are able to confuse you because you have a wall. The back of the end zone is its own wall. That's your friend if you're a defense. That's like having an extra safety, right? So he's not able to get it through those windows. And then the Steelers defense, again, this is about that elite team. They're like, all right, now you're in the 20. Now we're going to play some football. Yeah, you can drive it to the 40, the 50, then the 40, the 30 again, the 20. But can you beat us inside here? So that shows you how good the Steelers are, and Lamar Jackson's not able to get over the hump. The Colts defense is as good as the Steelers defense. The only difference is the Colts offense isn't as good. And I also think that the Colts are the NFC's Bears. You with me? In a similar way. The Colts are the NFC's Bears. And I think I have the Colts, the Bears, and the Bills kind of in that good team area. Right. Not great, but not poor. So this is but again, whenever you go against the Ravens, I don't want to go against the Ravens off of a loss, but the line seems awfully fishy. So I'm just staying away, Tony.
Yeah, and I'm going to go ahead and pull this up here real quick. I want to pull this up, and I was looking at this morning. I want to take a second look at it.
Oh,
But
and I
if you
don't trust Philip Rivers either.
Yeah, I don't trust Rivers in a big game, but if you take a look, if you take a look at when you're talking about good or great team, you take a look at the schedule of the Colts. You got to ask yourself who they really beat. They played Detroit, Cincinnati, Cleveland their last 3 games. Okay, and they lost to Cleveland. Chicago, the Jets, Minnesota, and the Jaguars. I mean, basically, if you take a look at this, they beat an average Chicago team and they beat Minnesota when Minnesota was ravaged with injuries here. The thing that scares me, as you said, I have a 4-point power rating on this game. It came out at 2.5. So you figure, okay, I got a 4-point power rating advantage for Baltimore. Then I think, okay, well, I'm going to give 2 points to the Colts, usually in the regular season for home field advantage, but there is no home field advantage this year. So this line should still be sitting around 3.5. Maybe deduct a half a point, maybe deduct a full point, because number one is you are on the road and you are off a hell of a game against Pittsburgh, and you're going to be a little bit back on your heels. So you give a little bit of a point advantage there. So that line looks very fishy to me. If anything, I think under 48 might be the play there. I really do. I think it might be a knockdown, drag out, kind of a very physical game. I know the points they put up against Pittsburgh last week, but I think that the Colts defense is is better than Pittsburgh's. And I think they're going to struggle here on the road to find points. And we'll see what Philip Rivers could do here. But this very easily could be one of those 2017 ball games, one way or the other. And a really good ball game.
You don't think the Ravens know that these Colts put up 40 last week? Of course they do. They'll take that as a challenge, and at the same time, these Colts know they can't keep up scoring with the Ravens. And obviously, if the Ravens put up 400 yards on the Steelers, imagine what they could do, again, or to the Colts and stuff like that. So yeah, I agree. If there's a lean on a total, and it's a good public fade, it would be on the under.
Yeah, but definitely. Folks, don't forget, get over to Docs, take advantage of that free $60. I wrote this down. I got this from Wade today. Wade runs Doc Sports. And, of course, he threw this out to me here. How about a 25% discount this week? Big weekend in college football. Got a lot of big marquee games. You got some big games in the SEC. You got Notre Dame taking on a Clemson here for the marquee game of the weekend. Of course, I'm sure that Arun's Crimson Tide's going to roll somebody and, whatever. But at the end of the day, my Huskers are going to lose to Northwestern probably. But at the end of the day,
as a bonus to your watchers, I think Notre Dame, I'm not saying they're a fraud, but I don't think Notre Dame is as good as people think they are. I watched that game live. Because we travel to Southeast and stuff. That Georgia Tech game, Notre Dame is, I'm just watching the game, but I personally don't see Notre Dame is as good as what people think they are. Remember, they scored 12 points on Louisville.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
right.
I think we're going to learn a lot this week about that game.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll be putting out a free rapid fire free pick on that. Tune into the channel later today. I'll give you my opinion on the Clemson game. Doesn't scare a lot of people off that the number one pick in the NFL draft's not even playing for Clemson. It's going to be an interesting game, but as we all know, if you need to look up Notre Dame's record against top 10 teams, go ahead and do it. Because
sunshine,
and my best friend out here in Vegas is a huge Irish fan, and I want you to know he already bet Clemson. So. Nonetheless, hey, 25% off this weekend. We have a promo code for you. You go to Arun's page or my page or Scott Spreitzer or Alan Harris or anybody over at the website. My good buddy Raphael, you're going to want to look up Raphael this weekend, and Doug Upstone for the Breeders' Cup picks this weekend. Arun, are you putting out any Breeders' Cups?
Yeah. My buddy Max and I, we do stuff together. So yeah, we do horses year round, and we're excited. And Tony, can you plug college basketball, because that starts on Thanksgiving, and the early bird is up now?
Yeah. Well, there you go. That's the plug.
Yeah.
College basketball's coming up. We have early bird special over Thanksgiving. I canceled a trip back to Omaha, Nebraska for a family Thanksgiving thing simply because college basketball's starting. I want to be home controlling the remote and the plethora of TVs around my house to check out everything that's going on. But yeah, over at Docs, we got an early bird special. While you're over there, click on anybody's handicapper page, pull up here's what the 25% off is. A weekly package in football. They're $99, so you're getting it for $75. 25% off. Or 25% off any handicapper's top football play this weekend, either in college or pro. Those are $30 packages, so get 25% off of that. The promo code is 25FB. 25FB. Just type it in the promo code box. Get 25% off a weekly package or 25% off any handicapper's top play package in college or pro football this weekend. We got UFC. We got the NASCAR finale coming up Sunday. My best NASCAR season of my career. And last year was #1 in the country, so do the math there. And, of course, you've got all kinds of soccer and tennis from Arun, along with everything else. So be sure and get over there this weekend. Of course, Breeders' Cup action as well. I will be over at the Santa Fe tomorrow morning, bright and early, betting some ponies with my buddy D-Ray. So looking forward to that. Let's get to the next game. And speaking of teams that I can't quite get a handle on, well, I got a handle on this one. The Los Angeles Chargers can't win a football game, period. Anthony Lynn, and I'm a superstitious type of cat. If something continues to happen bad, I change it. I throw it out. If I wear my favorite shirt and I lose a game of the year while I'm wearing that shirt watching it, I throw that shirt away. We need to throw Anthony Lynn out the window, and now they're playing a division game against the Las Vegas Raiders, who beat me last week. I had Cleveland as a top play last week. I fully admit it. I did not have a good week in the NFL. I'm bouncing back this week and kicking ass, but they went in there and ground out a 16-6 game, a win on the road in tough conditions. 40-mile-an-hour wind, cold weather, the whole 9 yards. They did get fined $500,000 here yesterday for COVID violations there, Las Vegas did. And Gruden got tapped for another $150,000 for not wearing his mask. So that just happened. Not that bothers Davis or Gruden. That's like me and you losing a quarter in a seat cushion. But at the end of the day here, this has dropped from Chargers -1.5 and 52 playing in SoFi Stadium to a pick and 51.5 here. And I thought Las Vegas played a good game last week. I thought they proved Cleveland, despite what you think about them, is a very physical football team, Arun. And, they went in there and knocked heads with them. This is a Raiders team that's kind of like the Colts, kind of an enigma wrapped in a riddle. You don't know what you're going to get from week to week. They go to Kansas City and kick their ass and lose the next week. And, of course, Tampa Bay came in here and beat them up. But can you trust the Chargers in any scenario to win a football game right now, Arun, despite the play of the rookie quarterback? Suspect of giving up big plays. And, if Drew Lock can bring back Denver against their defense, I think Carr's probably at this point a better quarterback than Locke, and he has a better running game than Locke had. And I think this is a game I'm going to lean Raiders in.
Yeah, so this is actually my top play this week, this particular game. But I'll tell you this: if there was ever a game that this team needed to,
don't give away too much.
Well, I'm not. I'll just say this: if there was ever a game that if there's ever a game that the Chargers needed to come through for Anthony Lynn, it's this game. Like, I think there will be consequences if this game doesn't go. And I'm not saying one way or the other, but I think there will be severe consequences if this game doesn't go Anthony Lynn's way. Keep in mind that in his post-game press conference, it was pretty brutal. I mean, the press was pretty hard on him,
Yeah.
which is great because it makes my Atlanta Falcons look not so bad, and people have kind of forgotten about that a little bit. But they were just asking him. He was just like, they were like, "Do you think you should be fired? Do you think you should have been let go?" Because I think this team is the first ever team to give up 3 straight leads in the fourth quarter or something like that. Up double digits in the fourth quarter, 3 straight games or something to that effect. They're the first ones to ever do that. So, yeah, I think that there are going to be consequences here, which is funny because if there was no Justin Herbert, I think this team would be significantly worse,
Yeah.
And I think Justin Herbert is the only reason why Tua Tagovailoa ended up starting sooner rather than later. I think when they saw Herbert doing pretty well, remember Tua was chosen ahead of Herbert.
Right.
And then they'll always be compared, just like, Trae Young will be always compared to Luka Doncic, because of that trade. So, I think this game will have consequences. Not so much for the Raiders because, I mean, at this point, Gruden basically he's a stakeholder in the Raiders. I'm sure they even gave him a part of the team, who knows, to take over that team. But there's going to be consequences if the Chargers don't win this game for Lynn.
Well, great teaser be the last 2 opponents we just talked about. And I would take 2-team 6-point teaser, and I stick the Raiders in there +6, and I take the Colts and stick them in there at +7.5. You're through key numbers or sitting on key numbers in both those games. That'd be a great little 2-team 6-point teaser for you. Arun's got a top play in that one. I have got a 6-unit game of the month this Sunday on a 5-pack. And all the plays from all the handicappers are up at Docs right now for football. So be sure and get over there and check it out. And one more time, use the promo code 25FB. You get 25% off a weekly package over at Docs. And you also get 25% off any top play package in football, college or pro, from any of the handicappers over at DocSports.com. And guess what? You get a free $60 by clicking the link in the description below. You can stick that towards a discount, damn near get it for free. So speaking of free picks you're looking for, during the Tony and Arun show, the TNA show, somebody, by the way, suggested we call it Doc's TNA Report, which is a little bit racy, but nonetheless, getting the free stuff there. There's some free stuff right there for you as well. Take advantage of that discount. Quickly, this weekend, I don't know what happened to Green Bay last week against Minnesota, but I don't think Minnesota's that good. And I don't know what happened to Detroit other than just a complete meltdown debacle, giving up 41 points against the Colts last week. But Minnesota laying 4, total 52.5 at home in this one. And let's see, the Vikings are 5-0 straight up and 4-0-1. Against the spread against Detroit. They've just owned them. Zimmer has owned them recently. But for some sneaking feeling, I have a feeling in the back of my gut, not only will I put the Lions in a teaser, I think they can beat them straight up this weekend. I just got a sneaking feeling this could be an upset special this weekend, Arun.
Yeah, I think that's right, and I also lean with you on the Lions there. We're both on the same page there, because the Lions are still in the playoff hunt and the Vikings aren't. And that's the first thing. And the Lions are always the tease. They're always the tease every week, and they did win against Atlanta, even though Atlanta probably should have won that game, or they should have won that game. They did what they were supposed to against Jacksonville and dominated them. They fell just short against the Saints. They beat Arizona on the road outright, which Seattle couldn't do. They lost to Green Bay by similar score, 21-42, and they should have beaten the Bears, except they gave up 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. But having said all that, Minnesota they got Dalvin Cook back, which obviously helped their chances now, and they'll have a running game. But this team is notorious. Minnesota hasn't won back-to-back games all year, obviously, because they're 2-6 or whatnot. This team doesn't know how to handle success typically. They always play up to good teams, Tony, and they play down to bad teams, right? This team lost by 1 point to Seattle, lost Atlanta by 17. They beat, Green Bay by 6 on the road. And, this is a team that played up to Tennessee and lost by just 1 point to Tennessee, but they lost by
Right.
17 to the Colts. So this team, and who are they playing? Detroit here. Detroit's not one of these elite teams, so they're probably going to have a letdown. And Detroit understands that being 4-4 in the NFC is a lot better than being 3-5, and they can score on offense. They have enough talent on defense, and even plus the Vikings coming off such a big win over Green Bay, you think they get up for the Lions? I don't think so. Lean on the Lions for me.
Yep, I agree. I think this is an upset special. I might even sprinkle, and I mean sprinkle, a little bit of money on the money line here as well on the Lions. I just got a feeling on this one. The biggest game of the day, obviously, this weekend in the NFL is the Patriots and the Jets on Monday night. No, I'm kidding. It is it is Tampa Bay taking on New Orleans. Tampa Bay struggled to a 2-point win on Monday Night Football. This line would look ahead was around 5. Now it's down to 4, total 50.5. So if you like Tampa Bay, you get a little extra value getting off that number of 5. I hate laying 5 in the NFL, by the way. But you're getting off that number of 5 mainly because they look so horrible on Monday night. But it could have been a look ahead spot. How do you get up? I mean, seriously, how do you get up for the New York Giants? I mean, you won't have the same problem getting up. As a matter of fact, if you like Tampa Bay, you got a better line, and you're going to have a hell of a lot more motivated team coming into this ball game after a poor showing. And they have shown that they can beat the hell out of people at home this year. On the road, they've been a little iffy. They got beat at Chicago. They struggled against the Giants. When they got beat in Chicago, they did go on the road again, though, and beat up on the Raiders, but that's not hard to do if you've got Tom Brady and you're starting to click with your receivers, this, that, and the other. But nonetheless, Tampa Bay at home against the Saints here, total 50.5 and -4. I got to tell you something. I could only lean Tampa Bay here. I'm not going to trust the Saints in this spot, Arun. Talk me out of it.
No, I think that's pretty accurate. I mean, the last time these two teams, faced each other, obviously the Saints won 34-23, and 57 points were scored. The thing about it is Drew Brees' shoulder hurts a little bit, so he's listed as questionable, but I think he's going to play.
Right.
I think he took some limited reps on Wednesday, limited reps on Thursday. Tampa Bay played like garbage last week against New York, so they're going to be motivated. So now, what are the fundamentals? You have you have the Saints team with you do have the Bucs team with revenge. You have a Bucs team that didn't play well last week. The Saints, Michael Thomas supposedly is going to be back, but people have been saying that for week after week after week, especially if you have, like me, who had him on your fantasy team. I eventually traded him, by the way, because I was like, I'm getting no value for this guy. So I eventually traded him. But, the interesting thing, Tony, is the total has dropped fast. It's dropped like 5 points. And there's no reason like these offenses can't score. So, but the Saints have a weird way of being a good underdog. I mean, whenever Sean Payton feels like he's an underdog, these guys get up. And I think the Saints now feel like they're chasing the Bucs. I think everyone feels like they're chasing, even though, they're 5-2, the Bucs are 6-2. But I think it's pretty much understood that people are chasing the Bucs now. So I like the under here. I think that the Saints will play their best defense of the year. I think the Bucs always show up on defense when they play better teams, and they've had a tendency to do that, like they did against the Packers. Remember that? I think these two teams kind of are familiar with each other more now after the first time they played with each other. So I like the under here.
Not a bad angle. And I didn't put this out on on the service this week. This isn't one of my premium plays, but. The one thing I looked at when they say, well, they're playing with revenge, as far as I'm concerned, the first game didn't matter because it was Brady's first game. They'd had no OTAs, very limited practices, had no chemistry or timing with his receivers. Gronk wasn't even a factor. Brady turned it over, had a pick 6 in that game, did not play well. He thought receiver was going one way and and he threw it to that spot. And of course, there was somebody there. It was called a defensive back for, the Saints. So, there was some issues in that first game, where and I had New Orleans in that game, and Tampa Bay was at a disadvantage, and I don't think they're at a disadvantage in this game. And while you hear a lot, while I'm going to jump on board with you here on the under in this one, you hear Drew Brees isn't 100%, and that's why the line's dropping. I mean, that, and Tom's probably ain't going to play. At the end of the day here, the thing that's most underrated about Tampa Bay is their defense. Their defense is playing extremely well. This is a tough defense now. They weren't playing that well at the beginning of the season. They're playing that well now. They've come together. I think they've settled in. They found their identity. They have their team chemistry on both sides of the ball. And despite what you saw on Monday Night Football, Tampa Bay is a very, very dangerous team right now. And the Saints, they're finding their identity a little bit. And they realize they can't rely on Drew Brees to throw the ball 55 times a game at his age and the shape that he's in terms of being banged up a little bit. And they're relying a lot more on Kamara. And they will rely on Kamara in this game, and that will eat clock. It's not throwing Drew Brees is not going to throw the ball 55 times in this game. And neither is Tom Brady, for that fact. So I think the under is probably a good play here, and you can still get it. It's right around 50 and a half in most shops right now, Arun. It's sitting at 50 and a half and 51 at half the shops there. So guess what, folks? That's the show for today. Sorry we came to you late in the week. We'll get back to, I think on Thanksgiving, we'll probably do the show maybe on Tuesday that week, Arun, because we got a lot of games during Thanksgiving week that are coming on, and obviously some college basketball as well you and I are going to want to concentrate on. And I know you got some tennis and soccer going on this weekend, along with the horse racing and the football. So there's a lot of stuff, a lot of advantages to take advantage of that free $60. Don't forget the promo code 25% off a weekly package. Any handicapper over at DocSports.com. Of course, Arun and I are the two best looking handicappers over there, so you're going to want to utilize us right away. The promo code is 25FB, and that'll give you 25% off a weekly package in college in football, and 25% off any handicapper's top plays. Those are $30 packages singled out for the day. You get 25% off those. The promo code box is in there. When you click on those packages, type in 25FB. Thanks for tuning in. Arun, before we go, I'll just throw it at you real quick as a goodbye. You gonna get a Falcons victory this weekend?
I don't know, man. It's actually I think that it's interesting because, Raheem Morris's job is on the line. I don't think this coaching staff ever had any chance of keeping their jobs, but having the fact that they should be 3-0 already, I think it's making people consider. But, people have done this in the past where interim coaches have done really well the last, 6 games, and then they give them the job the next year, and then they are horrible. Because there's enough tape on what the new coach is doing, and other teams have a tendency to catch up. All signs point to the Falcons doing decent, but Denver might have figured something out in that second half when they started coming back finally too. But I'd lean on my Falcons. I think that they've looked good so far in 3 games, and hopefully they can. The funny thing is, if they win out, right, they'll have 10 wins, but that's really hard to do. So I think they're treating every game like a playoff game. So we'll see what happens.
Well, we'll give you the weekly overhyped and not serious Stu Feiner lock of the millennium, a 2-team 6-point teaser. Give me the Denver Broncos and give me the Detroit Lions, both of them at +10 in a teaser. I think you'll have yourself a night. You can buy yourself a hamburger with that when you cash the ticket, folks. For Indian Cowboy, Arun, Shiva, I'm Tony George. Thanks for tuning in to Tony's Time. Good luck this weekend. Get over to the website. Take advantage of the discount we gave you, the promo code, and, of course, that free $60 as well. Good luck this weekend.